What do we do on Shavuot? I'm glad you asked. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Rabbi John Carey, your friendly neighborhood rabbi. Happy to be here with you, heroes, once again. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be teaching in this medium again. And we are going to be talking about the things that we do on Shavuot. In other videos, I've talked about when it is and what it is or why it is. Why do we celebrate it? I wanted to give you the lowdown on some customs and traditions that are unique to this beautiful holiday where we celebrate getting probably the greatest gift that anybody ever got. That is the Torah. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I highly suggest that you subscribe to this channel. Maybe ring a ding ding that little notification bell there. That way you know every time another video drops and you won't miss a beat. It's cool to be on the inside, yo. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like it at any point, if you like anything about it at all, give it a thumbs up. That'll help other people find useful information for them. But now some useful information for you. The question at hand is, what do we do on Shavuot? Let me start talking about what we don't do on Shavuot. An important thing to know about Shavuot is that it's one of the most important holidays of the Jewish calendar. It's one of the top 5 holidays mentioned in the Torah. Of course, we have the high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And then we have the 3 pilgrimage festivals, or the Shalosh Regalim. And they're called pilgrimage festivals because in ancient times, when we first reclaimed the land of Israel following leaving slavery in Egypt, about 3,200 years ago, settler colonial, my Aunt Fanny. I didn't mean to be political, but you know who you are. When we entered the land under the leadership of Joshua, the Torah decreed all sorts of holidays for us to recognize the abundance of the earth. The big 3 were all harvest festivals of Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And because they're a big deal, the Torah says you are not to do work on these days or creative labor, no melacha. And where else do we see that word creative work or melacha? And that has to do with Shabbat. So on Shavuot, we have a similar refraining from creative labor that we do on Shabbat. So basically anything you wouldn't do on Shabbat, you don't do on Shavuot. You preserve the peace of that day, except cooking. One thing that's true about all of the pilgrimage festivals, including Shavuot, is while you might refrain from going to your normal job, it's totally cool to cook. You know, for Shabbat, you cook ahead of time so that you can eat and not worry about it. Passover, for Shavuot and Sukkot, also for Rosh Hashanah, it's okay to do work about cooking when you're like feeding yourself or feeding your family or feeding guests. It's a holiday. Yom Kippur, no cooking. Why? No eating. So anyway, what we don't do on Shavuot is work. Why? So that we can preserve this holy day for other things that are related to the holiday. Many people go to services on Shavuot, just like Passover has special services. It's the regular, evening and morning and afternoon services, but they're jazzed up a little bit for Shavuot, right? They have the normal holiday stuff like Hallel. One important thing that people do on some holidays is Yizkor. So the Yizkor service is a memorial service for people in our lives who have passed away. We do that 4 times a year on Yom Kippur, and then the 3 pilgrimage festivals like Shavuot. And if you're in a place that celebrates Shavuot for 2 days, I think it's usually on the 2nd day. So we have services like we have services on Shabbat or other holidays, but they're longer because we have additional stuff on Shavuot, things that we do that we never do any other time. We have certain liturgical poems like the Akdamut or the Azharot. These are piyutim or liturgical poems that came out of our history that we now do on Shavuot. There's also a very important thing that we do on Shavuot during services. That is, we read the book of Ruth, or Megillat Ruth. This is a story about a woman who wasn't born Jewish, but had become a part of a Jewish family. I don't want to spoil it for you. Read it yourself. But anyway, that story involves Ruth being with her mother-in-law, Naomi, through some tough times. They were so broke, they had to go pick up after people who were harvesting in a field, also known as gleaning. So much of the story of Ruth has to do with the harvest. We attach it to this harvest festival of Shavuot. But there's another connection between Shavuot and the book of Ruth in that Shavuot is where God reveals the Torah to all of the Jewish people, and we are, as my meditation teacher says, in choice as to whether we accept it or not. There's a midrash about maybe our arms would twist it a little bit. But in any case, that this is the holiday of the Jewish people accepting Torah. And Ruth, who becomes a Jewish person, then accepts Torah herself. Not for nothing, Shavuot is kind of a big deal holiday to people who converted to Judaism, right? Because this is kind of like our personal revelation, if you will. There's an old midrash that says that when God revealed the Torah at Mount Sinai, uh, not just every Jew who was alive at that time was at the base of Sinai to receive it, but also the souls of every Jewish person who would ever live, including the souls of every person who would convert to Judaism at some point. So all of us were there. And we read the book of Ruth to commemorate this personal revelation along with our national revelation, if you will. Another thing that we do on Shavuot that's less of a big deal on other days is dairy foods, especially sweet dairy foods, dairy desserts, and things like that. I'm often asked, like, what's the source of this custom? Why do we have cheesecake and ice cream specifically on Shavuot? Blintzes are popular. And like many Jewish customs, the reason is overdetermined. That means there's a lot of different answers, any of them good answers. Here's a couple of my favorites. One is the idea that when the Torah was revealed, it was sweet for the people, and that people hearken back to the words of Shlomo Melech or King Solomon in the poem he wrote, the Song of Songs, that it is like milk, and it's sweet for us like milk and honey, referring to the Torah, right? So if Torah is sweet like milk and honey, let's make sweet dairy desserts. Another less, poetic reason is that once the people got the commandments, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, it's just not mixing, not mixing meat and milk. That wasn't in the top 10, but it came later, right? Suddenly they were freaked out. They're like, oh, we've been eating meat wrong this whole time, or we didn't know, it was cool. But like now it's like there's only certain kinds of animals and we have to harvest them and prepare them a certain way. So let's just throw out all the meat that we have. We'll have dairy and that'll be fine until we figure out how to put meat back on the menu, boys. Little Lord of the Rings reference wherever I can. And so some people say, because we didn't know how to keep kosher and separate milk and meat yet, we just stuck with the dairy. Oh, there's the dog. This is why I can't do live streams. Hey, Callie. Hey, sweetheart. Yeah, this is another thing that's happened since in the last 5 years. We've become a dog family. Now we're a 2-dog family. I don't know if you saw the other one. I guess that door remains open for the rest of the video, unless I get up and you see the shorts that I'm wearing. It's fun about teaching on YouTube. So where was I? Okay. So like I said, we have dairy desserts. We read the book of Ruth. We have special poems as a part of longer services. There's Yizkor in those services. If you're a person who has a loved one who's passed, it's one of those times of the year where we get together to remember those folks in the company of other people who are in mourning as well. The last thing I'll mention is this practice we have called Tikun Leil Shavuot. In simple terms, you might have noticed in Jewish communities, on Erev Shavuot, that is like right as the sun goes down in the beginning of Shavuot, people will engage in all night or at least late night Torah study. I know if you go to places that have a lot of Jews, like Pico Robertson neighborhood in Los Angeles, parts of Brooklyn or Manhattan, they will literally have lectures and Torah study sessions that go all night. You'll see people walking down the streets with a Tanakh under their arms. It's amazing. They go from synagogue to like shop around for the best learning. In some places, we just do late night. There wasn't, when I was in Pasadena and Burbank, nobody was up for all night. But so we would go to like, I don't know, 10, maybe 11, depending on how good the cheesecake was. But it's a custom to study Torah late at night, all night if you can, until the break of dawn, to quote great Jewish musicians, the Beastie Boys. And I love the reason for this. When I first heard it, it's called Tikun Leil Shavuot, or completing the night of Shavuot. There's another interpretation of that Tikun Leil Shavuot. Tikun is like rectification, or like fixing a mistake. There's a midrash that says that when the Jewish people were camped out in front of the mountain where they were going to receive the Torah, they were in a great deal of anticipation. They did laundry. They were minding their P's and Q's. Then they fell asleep and slept in on the morning they were supposed to receive the Torah. And so that's why the shofars were so loud, to wake them up. And so to make up for that moment of almost missing the 10 commandments, we now stay up all night and study Torah so that we will be awake and fully prepared to receive the Torah, which was, again, the greatest gift anybody ever got. from my perspective, because was so important that this newly freed people had a guide for how to also be a just and holy people. So those are the things that we do on Shavuot. One last thing, people often ask, like, how do you greet people on Shavuot? Various holiday. There's Shabbat Shalom. There's Shana Tova. Have a good New Year for Rosh Hashanah. Tzom Kal for Yom Kippur, or easy fast. Simply on Shavuot, we'll say Chag Sameach, or Happy Festival Day, or Chag Shavuot Sameach, Happy Weeks Festival. So if you see somebody on Shavuot, give them a Chag Sameach from me. Give them a Chag Shavuot Sameach from me. It's been my delight to learn about this stuff from you. If you have any questions, throw those in the chat. Maybe I'll make another video about it. One more thing before you go. If you want to keep learning with me, check out another video that's on this channel. I've got some links in the info below to a book that I wrote if you want to go deeper, and other ways that we can connect. But this was pretty great. So until next time, peace.